behind. She's ready to do the hit. The whistles are being blown. She takes a...
All right, well, here it is. Backup quarterback. Chandler Harnish throws, and Pam Oliver, wham. Let me tell you, that ball had a tight spiral, and it had some hump baby on it. And, hey, Pam, toughest person in this stadium.
Thanks for you guys hitting me in the face with the football.
Oh, yeah, we apologize on that.
This kid is physical. He's strong. I mean, arguably the top offensive lineman this morning in the one-on-ones. I mean, he's out there with a kid like Cameron Robinson. And
all of a sudden, there really have been questions about this defense, which is ranked 21st. Not having Benson is going to hurt. I had an interesting talk with offensive coordinator Tom Butt. Did you guys see that football? I saw it. Anyway.
And I know we're moving fast, get physical out there on the field. And we come at full speed and she's sitting down, taking pictures. I know that kind of hurt her. So I had to make sure she was all right.
What did you say?
No, I just rubbed her head. It looked like I hit her head. Yeah.
Us, just the two of us.
Oh man, this is dangerous.
Oh yeah, I got beer this time too.
Oh my god, we can literally do whatever we want with the show.
Yeah,
we have the power, except for our overlords that have their finger right on the end studio button,
the dump stream button.
yeah.
There's someone lurking in the background waiting to rein us in if we get carried away.
Yeah, I don't know if they have much to worry about, or maybe they actually do have a lot to worry about, that being Justin. Because I probably watched the least amount of football this past weekend because I went to my first NFL game of the year. And no, that's not a bad dad joke. It was literally my first NFL game of the season. It just happened to be on January 1.
We have to call those buck jokes.
Ooh, shots fired. But yeah, I went to the Falcons-Cardinals game, which I mentioned on last week's show. They're worse in person. It's bad. Being able to see the whole field and just how not NFL level it looks. Like when you're looking at a bad team, sometimes it can show up in TV, especially if the quarterback is absolute crap. But when the whole team's bad, you can just see this secondary area where the play wasn't happening, they were literally standing on their hips just waiting for the whistle to blow. Neither team wanted to win that game. I mean, I guess the Falcons ended up winning it 20-19, but I don't know why they did that. I don't even know why they kicked a field goal. Just let time go out, get a loss, get a better pick, and say we're slowly improving or something. But yeah, anytime you go to a game, that's your whole day. So you might have to fill me in on a few things that happened this past week, with the exception of Monday night. I'm pretty up to date on what went on Monday.
So this was probably the least football that I've watched all season, because I was busy working all day Sunday. Well, we had church, and then I was working with a real estate client all afternoon. So I got home and saw some of the stuff in the evening, but I mean, it's at this point, the actual events on the field are a little just kind of fungible for me. I've seen so many NFL games, and were you saying that's the first one you've ever been to in person?
No, just this NFL season.
Oh, just the season. Okay. Yeah. I'm more in the, I'm kind of caught right now between fantasy DFS season and draft season. So the way things actually work out on the field, I mostly am just interested in going and just kind of seeing what the results were and whatever. I haven't paid that much attention to the actual result. So this is certainly going to be a very, very good show where we absolutely know exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly. Well, and I went to 3 or 4 Georgia games, but this is my first Falcons game I've been to in probably 3 years. I used to go all the time. there was one season I went to every home game plus a playoff game, and I was there in 2012. You probably remember this game. I think it was divisional
Motherfucker.
round, or
You
the
motherfucker.
game-winning field goal. I have a
You
video of that.
motherfucker.
I might share it in the group later,
You
just
motherfucker.
for. But that was the season I went to every single home game plus that playoff game, and there was probably 3 or 4 years in a row where I was minimum 6 games. But then ever since they moved into the new dome, it's only a fun environment when it's sold out. Like when the team's bad and the crowd doesn't care, and it's more fun to go to an Atlanta United MLS game than a Falcons game because that crowd makes the environment. There's no environment when your NFL team is bad. And it's a slug to get through. It's not even worth paying money for.
I might be biased, but I think that, I'm obviously biased. I think that MLS games are much more fun to attend than NFL games. NFL games are I like, apart from when I was younger and like to get really drunk and, all that sort of stuff, like it was fun to go to a game with a bunch of friends and you just kind of pay attention to what's happening on the field. You go tailgate ahead of time and then you're just hammered in the stands and sort of trying to keep an eye on what's happening, but you're mostly just squinting at the big screen, trying to figure out what went on. Soccer games in game are an absolute blast, especially if you sit among the supporters groups.
Yep.
So this is something that I think NFL fan culture could really take over, could really absorb a lot from soccer culture. Because you have the most dedicated supporters of the team will all sit together in a single section or a group of sections.
Yep.
And then the entire game, there's nonstop chants, singing,
drumming,
talking, drumming, waving flags, everything. And if you just want to sit and just watch the game and study what's going on, everything, then you don't want to sit in those sections. And if you don't like drunk assholes, you probably don't want to sit in those sections.
Nope.
But if you do like drunk assholes and just going crazy and cutting loose and having fun, then sitting in a supporter section at a soccer game is amazing. And then the organized chants and doing cross stadium chants. There's basically one team in the NFL. I'm kind of going to go back on myself here a little bit, but there's one team in the NFL that has sort of incorporated something like that on a limited basis. And here's probably where I get dumped out of the conversation. The Packers with their stupid, most retarded chant in all of sports, the Go Pack Go chant. I heard it on the broadcast this week and I was just cringing my face off. It sounds like a bunch of elementary students at a soccer game. It is the worst thing ever. So if you're going to have organized chants, just don't do what Packers fans do. That would be my one requirement.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree. One of the most cringe things, at least in the Falcon fandom world that I was born into, is the whole rise up thing. It's like, what do Falcons do? We rise up. And you got Sam Jackson on the big screen saying rise up. And I've never gotten into that. It has to come organically. I think it has to come from the audience, from the crowd. They're the ones that come up with a nickname, that section of the stadium we call, fill in whatever the area code of the city is, that's the 404 zone. And, we paint our faces and we do crazy shit. And then 5 years later, the whole stadium kind of starts to adopt it. And now it becomes tradition. You can't force tradition. Tradition is something that comes organically. And I think what we're touching on is passion, and MLS has it. And certain NFL clubs have it. And I think the ones that do have it closely or much more closely resemble college football atmospheres, because the passion in college football, and I don't even think it's just a Southern thing, because I think, Ohio State fans are passionate. Michigan fans are passionate. I think it's you get near a team that either has experienced success, that helps. That's a big ingredient. Another one is tradition and the number of years that event has taken place in that building. Our background right now is Sanford Stadium. That's over, that's 100 years old. And when they picked that spot, there were railroad tracks behind it. And, you could park your car and watch it from the side of the road, and now it's just built up to where you have to physically get in it to see it. But over time, things get adopted. We weren't the Bulldogs, we were called, that was given to us by a sports writer who said that the way that we played Yale was like a bulldog in a fight. And then so slowly we start to add layers to this culture that once you're a part of it, you kind of are ingratiated. You ingratiate yourself in that. You learn the chants, you learn the fight songs, the marching band plays a certain thing at a certain time, and that means that you do something in the stands. And the NFL does not have that for the most part. It's too corporate. And I think that the NFL probably used to have it. They're doing a special now, or have been doing a special on the NFL Network of the 91 Falcons. Didn't win the Super Bowl. Hell, didn't even get to the third round of the playoffs. But it was the Deion Sanders back in black, MC Hammer on the sidelines, Travis Tritt, Evander Holyfield. They brought energy and excitement and passion. And the crowd, it was not corporate. It was pre-corporate NFL. You had that then. You didn't need 100 years of tradition. You need something organic to happen to give people a reason to care, because there's no passion if you don't care. And when the modern NFL era, if your team lacks in success, everybody has the stadium announcer that yells third down the same. Every stadium shoots off a cannon or a horn when there's a touchdown. There's nothing that differentiates. Exactly. College football games just have it inherently, and the NFL, I think they lack it massively.
There's something that's kind of interesting. I was thinking of while you were talking about that. I came up, I grew up a Seahawks fan just because I was in Seattle and it was the local team. I was a Seahawks fan, Mariners fan, Sonics fan. And then you had the Mariners, obviously, who had like one brief blip of moderate success in the late 90s, culminating in the 116 win season in 2001, and then proceeded to embark on the longest playoff drought in all the major sports in the U.S. That ended this last season. So being a Mariners fan has largely been miserable. Then obviously the Sonics were very successful. It was very, very good to be a Seattle sports fan in the late 90s. But then obviously everyone knows what happened with the Sonics. And so the mid 2000s were a pretty miserable time to be a Seattle sports fan. Then you had the Mike Holmgren, Matt Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander, Walter Jones Seahawks that went to the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl was such that later on the head ref of the Super Bowl came out and officially apologized to the city of Seattle for what a poor job his crew did in that game, essentially confirming to all the butthurt Seahawks fans, me included, that the Seahawks essentially got jobbed out of a Super Bowl win. And after that happened, I think they made the playoffs the next season, and then maybe a year off in a couple spots here, but then you had the Jim Mora Seahawks year, which was the last couple years of the 2000s that culminated in just like the absolute like basement experience of being a Seahawks fan. And it was right at that time that I kind of started. I was in college. I just started college, and I had friends who played sports, getting into fantasy football, that sort of thing. So I started following them a little more closely there. And the time, so Pete Carroll was hired, I want to say 2010 or 2011. And I think 2011 was his first season. This is the Matt Hasselbeck, Tavares Jackson Seahawks. And then they draft Russell Wilson in 2012. So that game you mentioned that you went to in 2012, that was rookie Russell Wilson. I think he like set the rookie record for passing yards in a playoff game or something like that. He had like 385 yards or something along those lines.
It was a massive comeback from the Seahawks. I remember because I felt confident in the first half, got really worried in the second half because this new quarterback out of Wisconsin by way of NC State was just running all over the place. And we're like, hey, that's what we used to do.
But it was kind of a long buildup. But then that season, so 2012, the Seahawks fell short. And then obviously 2013 was like the magical Seahawks season. 2014, they made the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. And since then, they've been very successful. I mean, they've had a couple of years where they haven't made, I think maybe 1 or 2 years since then that they haven't made the playoffs. And they've dominated the division ever since then. So now you've got a lot of people that come into the NFL over the last several years, and they're used to seeing the Seahawks as being kind of like perennial contenders, and they see the Seahawks as among the more privileged NFL franchises. But I remember when that wasn't the case. I remember when the Seahawks were the nobodies who lived in South Alaska and got no benefit of the doubt on anything. And that sense of being the upstarts who were fighting against the tide, fighting against the momentum of the rest of the league was very galvanizing for Seahawks fans. That was like the absolute peak of my like rabid Seahawks fandom was the 2012 or 2011 to 2015, 2016. I was just I just ate, breathed, and drank Seahawks football all the time. And then I realized kind of as it started getting to where there was expectations. Like now every year there's the expectation that it's like Super Bowl or bust. Getting to the NFC Championship game isn't good enough. Making the playoffs isn't good enough. You need to be a 1 or 2 seed. You need to be getting a home field advantage. And if you're not doing that, you're a failure. Yeah. And very shortly after that comes apathy. As the fan base starts being like, all right, well, you've spoiled us with 10 years of perpetually being competitive, but perpetually being competitive isn't enough. You need to be winning every year. So then when you're talking about like going to the stadium and having that tradition that everyone's kind of rallying around the team and stuff, now Seahawks fans are very cynical and apathetic toward the team, generally speaking.
Yeah.
However, this year has kind of turned things around again because everyone expected them to be a dumpster fire and they haven't been. But I'm seeing just so quickly, it gets flipped right back around again where the Seahawks have shown some competitiveness, but they have very clear major flaws in the team. So it's obvious that like making the playoffs would be just a massive achievement given the expectations coming into the season. But now you see people who are being like, oh, Pete needs to retire. Pete's got to, which I might agree with that, but not for the same reason as everybody else. There's these, I don't know, expectations are a weird thing. And it's almost like you have to be, in order to really, truly appreciate and enjoy the fan experience, you have to have nothing to lose. You have to have like everything in front of you to gain. You have to have the sense that everyone's against you and you're up against all of the odds, and you're fighting for every single thing that you get. And so there's this weird way in that you have to have years of mediocrity or even years of being a dumpster fire in order to really rally that intense, rabid fan support that makes for like a crazy intense atmosphere.
Absolutely. And for quote unquote real fans, you got to go through the lean years to be able to appreciate the good years, because if you only show up for the good years, you never appreciate it and you become apathetic. You are that which creates apathy for the fan base itself. A good example is, right now the Falcons are a dumpster fire, but I've seen them be worse. I've been there for the 2-win seasons. Those were the best games to go to when I was a kid because the expectations weren't there. You were just going to have a good time. It was fun in the crowd then.
And if they were competitive, it was amazing. Like
absolutely.
You totally didn't expect it.
Yeah, like we've been talking about it all season, how the Vikings have like the best record of 1-score decision games. If all of those just broke the other way, their record would be shit.
They'd be the Raiders.
But the fans, I don't know if they would drop off. Or at least when I say fans, I mean like the people that it's like that's my team. Good, bad, or indifferent, good years, bad years, years where we go 3 coaches in a row. We can't figure out, we can't get our own head out of our ass, that kind of thing. Going through that kind of builds character. And also, if you're lucky enough to experience success, if your program is lucky enough to make that happen and go snatch it, I think genuinely it just means more than people that are, like what's a good example of a team that just popped out of nowhere? Like the Lions. Like if all of a sudden people were only Pistons fans and Michigan Wolverine fans or whatever, and this year they're like, oh, the Lions won 6 straight games. I'm going to start watching the NFL now. It's like to all the other fans, you're kind of like you have to stick around when we miss the playoffs, which is going to happen. Sorry, Lions fans. I didn't want it to happen, but it looks like that's pretty much how it's going to go. But you can't just turn it off and on like a switch. If and that's the problem with like the Super Bowl and everything else that we've talked about is like the corporatization of the NFL. It's my biggest complaint of the NFL itself. But to me, it has nothing to do with the game. The game is very different. The game is something that exists in high schools all over the country, in colleges, in backyards, and in front yards on Thanksgiving morning. And it also just happens to happen at a very high, professional level where the guys are just amazing athletes. To me, that's why I love the game. I don't give a flying shit that the NFL has decided to go in a corporate route. I think it's at their fans' own loss, but that just means that you actually have to be a fan. Like you literally, you can't just go away because this ain't my dad's NFL. This ain't the NFL I grew up with. Hey man, shit changes. Fucking roll with it. But maintain the traditions that were created before you so that you pass them off to the guys coming behind you. I think that's very important.
We could go in some interesting theological or political directions with this, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Lions. That's actually a kind of an interesting subject here. It ties in a lot of stuff because you've got an interesting decision the NFL made this week. They changed up the schedule, and I don't remember exactly what the schedule was before, but I just saw the fallout from it. That they decided to. So you have 2 different games that both have implications for each other. So the Seahawks are hosting the Rams. The Seahawks are 8-8. The Rams are 5-11, well eliminated. Baker Mayfield Rams. And for as much as Sean McVay has had Pete Carroll's number throughout a lot of the time that the Seahawks are, and for a lot of the time that McVay has been at the Rams, I'm pretty confident the Seahawks are going to win this game. But winning this game doesn't get them in the playoffs. They need to win this game, and they need the Lions to win, and so the Lions need the Seahawks to lose. If the Seahawks lose and the Lions beat the Packers, the Lions get the last wild card spot. If the Seahawks win and the Lions beat the Packers, the Seahawks get the last wild card spot. If the Seahawks win and the Packers win, the Packers get the last wild card spot. Normally, I mean, in the entire time I've paid attention to the NFL, anytime that there are playoff games that are direct, like especially at the end of the season, when there's games that are essentially playoff games that have direct implications, the NFL doesn't go out of their way to minimize motivation for other teams. So they'll put these games at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have one team, that by the time they start, they're already eliminated and they have not as much reason to put up a fight. But the NFL went out of their way to flex the Lions-Packers game into the evening. And I don't remember the last week of the season having a Sunday night game ever. Maybe back in the 90s or something. Usually the last week of the season it's often even all the games played at the same time, I think. Or at least just morning games and evening games, and they're all on Sunday. You don't have earlier, you don't have Thursday night. You don't usually the last week of the season, I think all the games are played essentially at the same time to prevent these sort of competitive imbalance situations.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is, if coming from a Seahawks perspective, so it's just biased here, not only have they scheduled have they set up the schedule in such a way that they're potentially screwing the Seahawks out of a chance at a playoff spot. And I'll make a caveat that the Seahawks would not be in this situation if they hadn't gone 0-4 against the worst division in football this year. So some of this is just bitching for the sake of bitching.
Sure. That's what fans do, man.
But at the same time, the Seahawks also have a pick in the top 5, currently in the top 3.
Thank you, Denver.
the Seahawks need Denver to lose this game. The Seahawks or Denver is playing the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers have the chance, and I don't remember the exact details of this, but essentially the Chargers have the chance to increase to move up a spot in the playoffs, move up a seed in the playoffs if they beat Denver and Baltimore loses, I think is what it is. If Baltimore loses to the Bengals, then the Chargers have something to play for. If Baltimore wins, the Chargers don't have something to play for. And they scheduled this and locked in the schedule in such a way that the Baltimore game happens in the morning and the Chargers game happens in the afternoon, if I'm remembering it right. Either way, by the time the Chargers go to play, they're going to know whether or not they have something to play for. And they're likely and there's a good chance that they're not going to have anything to play for. So might as well not risk injury, which means that the Broncos have a much better chance of winning the game and making the Seahawks pick worse.
Mm-hmm.
So the Seahawks are getting fucked in both ends right now by NFL scheduling.
Well, and that's why it's also just that much more important for the Ravens to have beaten the Steelers last week to take a little bit of this off. And the there was always going to be a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. The second you add another week of games where there's not going to be a 500 team to be found, unless obviously you have a tie, but even then, I guess that still counts for something. It was guaranteed to come down to this final week. This final week was always slated to be the mega week. And going back to what you said about all the games being played all on one day, and I think that a lot of that might have just fallen into the fact that Thursday night football didn't exist. They kind of ended Monday night football once it got into playoff seeding being a thing. I'm pretty sure Monday night football didn't exist for the last 2 weeks of the year growing up. Mm-hmm. Saturday football, I don't remember happening. That to me, that seems like a recent thing where they were like, okay, now that bowls are over and the college football season is over, because it was always college owned Saturday, NFL owned Sunday. And if you had a football game on Thursday, it was a mid-tier college football team. But the NFL was never gonna, I remember when they first had the idea of Monday Night Football, the traditionalists at that time hated it because it was purely a media spectacle that they were trying to create. Mm-hmm. They were trying to capitalize on prime time. People go places on the weekends, but if you catch them at home after work, that's when the eyeballs are there. Now, it was very necessary to build up the NFL as a brand in which it became. But I'm glad that it's not my job to create the schedule for the NFL because it's impossible to make everybody happy. You can't just put all of because all of this is forecasted, other than the flexing thing, as far as what time they play, this schedule was created before we knew that team was going to be a dumpster fire and that team was going to be screaming Eagles, like right out of the gate and never let go. Like, a lot of this is unknown until you start getting into it, which is why they created the flex thing. To me, it's odd. It's more odd that they put the Lions Packers flexed later, and why you wouldn't want to maybe just as a pure money grab flex just the two biggest fan bases to play later, which I guess could be the Lions and Packers. I mean, I know they're very devoted, but because if you already
you got the Eagles and the Giants. That'd be a compelling game. Yeah.
And that's divisional, well, I think everybody's divisional this final season or this final week, but it's odd that they put that one flexed because it's almost, you see it as the Seahawks getting screwed. I see it as the Lions being set up for demolition. Mm-hmm. Lions going on the road to Lambeau last week of the year. Hey, man, it doesn't get any warmer at 8:20 in Lambeau, or I guess technically it would be 7:20. Mm-hmm. Either way, at night in January in Lambeau for a dome team, and not to mention the Packers are on a bit of a heater. I think they've won like their last 5 in a row or something like that. Or that might be incorrect. Don't quote. Again, aspiring midwit. I'm just here to say words. But
they've won 4 in a row.
Okay, well, maybe I'm just prognosticating. If I was a Lions fan, I'd be like, you got to be shitting me. We had everything in front of us. We went 6-1 during a stretch. Like, this was our year. We finally put it together, and now you're gonna close out our season prime time instead of sneaking us into a 1:00 game where we could just kind of be hidden. The spotlight wouldn't be on us. We wouldn't get nervous. We wouldn't piss our pants. I'm obviously showing my hands. I think it's going to be the Packers winning that game. I think everything is set up perfectly for a crushing blow yet again for the fans in Detroit, especially coming off this past Saturday. Majority of Michigan fans or Lion fans wouldn't want to be you. Sorry. You have my my deepest sympathy.
Well, yeah, we'll make that our first call of the week then, because I agree with you. I think so. Right now, the total's at 49. It's one of the highest totals of the week. There's actually a lot of low totals this week. I think it's the second highest total of the week. Yeah, KC and Las Vegas are 52.5, and that's the highest total. So at 49, Detroit and Green Bay is the second highest total. Green Bay is favored by 4.5, and I think, especially looking at Jared Goff's home road splits this year, he is two entirely different human beings on the road and at home.
Yeah.
Even on the road in a dome, he's much worse than at home. So yeah, this to me looks like just an absolute mollywhopping. I think Packers are going to win and cover.
Could you see a comparison being made between Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins? Because remember, Kirk Cousins was the prime, lights are too bright, can't play. He's obviously performed in primetime games a couple times. So that's not kind of like the autistic rant that Mark went on in our private chat about Alabama not showing up for non-playoff games. And he was like, but this year and that year, so they're only talking about 2 years. I think it's kind of the same with Kirk Cousins in primetime. I think there's like probably a few glaring examples where it's like, this dude just can't get it done. Same thing, similarly speaking with Jared Goff, I totally agree with you. Like, the way he performed in New England was, I don't know how you're a professional quarterback. And then other times on the road. So I think if the Lions win, it will be because they have fully come around the bend. They are now a team to potentially be as fearful of in the playoffs, because then they showed you that now they can take this on the road. And I have to see it in order to believe it, and I haven't seen it yet. So I'm only going through logic on this one. Last week, most of my picks were conspiratorial in nature. I think I was proven pretty correct in most of them, mainly the Steelers winning because the NFL can't have Mike Tomlin have a losing record. Or at least they have to have a little more build up to the final week for that. This one won't be conspiratorial at all this week. I think it's just straight up head-to-head match. Lions go down to the Packers, and Jared Goff then supplants Kirk Cousins as the how bright are the lights guy.
What do you think of the future? So drag this out and make Justin wail and gnash his teeth in the background. So right now it's kind of funny. So the Rams, the Lions have the Rams first round pick. And as of right now, the Rams have the 6th pick. So the Lions actually kind of win either way here, because if the Seahawks lose and the Rams win, then the Lions control their own destiny.
Yeah.
If the Seahawks win, so the Rams lose, then the Lions pick gets better, and they have the chance of moving their pick up in the first round. So if you're if you're the Lions, given how the season has gone, the fact that they were basically left for dead and then came out of nowhere to be one of the best teams in football for the latter half of the season. And it's like you're seeing Dan Campbell's vision kind of starting to come to life. Like, this didn't seem fluky. This seemed like legitimate. Like, there's a lot of talent around this team. Aiden Hutchinson's really coming on. Their offense is genuinely, like, they've got some legitimate receiving talent. They've got legitimately good running backs. Their offensive line is phenomenal. Penei Sewell is a legend.
Yeah.
What are you doing with this first pick if you're the Lions? Are you
defense all the way?
A quarterback, or are you going defense?
I'm probably going defense only because I don't think that this quarterback class is what everyone thinks it is. I think everyone is saying, "Ooh, this you got to draft a quarterback this year," and that's only because last year was just a dumpster fire of quarterbacks. As far as how they were evaluated, you now have Mr. Irrelevant, potentially going to go win some playoff games. So it kind of also shows what the Mel Kipers of the world really don't know shit most of the time. They can forecast this and they can project that, but in the end, how many Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks also have Super Bowl rings? That list isn't very long.
Yep.
Success at college does not necessarily translate to success at the NFL. And I'm not a Bryce. I am not a believer in Bryce Young in Alabama. I think he's going to run through the same exact problems that you have seen Tua. And I think that all the criticism for his size is why Tua is as injury susceptible as he is. It has nothing to do with talent. I don't know too many players that could be any more talented than either Bryce or Tua. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with physics. And can your body hold up to the schedule that is the NFL and getting hit by the force that you're going to be repeatedly hit by? And how does your body absorb that? And it has fuck all to do with what you did in Tuscaloosa. So beyond Bryce Young, I don't know who else is out there. Max Duggan, I think, is going to go. He's on TCU. I could be mistaken. Hell, he could be a freshman for all I know. I haven't paid much attention to TCU. Probably should give them a look. See,
I think he's eligible at the least.
Yeah. And so, I mean, college football is the sport I pay more attention to than the NFL. And I haven't seen, CJ Stroud is coming out more than likely. That was likely his last game. So you have quarterbacks that are capable, I guess, but I don't know if I'd throw a CJ Stroud in Detroit, or I think Goff is good enough if you just he's got to be in a. I think to me, the problem with the NFL is, Jerry Glanville said it, not for long. Like, it's very short. It's very high time preference. It's very short window of time to produce results. And with Dan Campbell, what is this, second or third year? In college, you give coaches at least until their third year before you judge them, because they have to get their people in. They have to get their system established and the buy-in to it, and the players have to learn it. Then they have to implement it, and that takes time. Nothing like that really happens overnight. And so Goff, this is what, his second year as a Lion. I mean, I think you got to give him another year. I think you don't judge him till year 3. And I think he's shown signs of an upside, where then you can just work on the times when he doesn't. And I think that a third year, I don't know if I go rushing to get a quarterback, to be honest with you. I think that there's probably a higher need in the defensive back area, or maybe linebacker, that you could plug immediately with a college, in the draft. Maybe in the later rounds, 4th through 7th, get a quarterback, because I just don't know if there's that much difference. If you take whatever quarterback was drafted first last year and put him up against Brock Purdy, now I think most people would take Brock Purdy.
Kenny Pickett or Brock Purdy?
Yeah, exactly. So the amount of difference, talent-wise and production-wise, I think revolves a lot more on the team that you have around you. And I don't think Goff is that bad where he needs to get replaced immediately. Because if you go ahead and draft a quarterback and your plan is to already get Goff out, that's another 3-year experiment. And all the contracts, ages of good players that you currently have, you can't forecast 3 years out in the NFL either. So I think you punch up the holes that you have on defense and give that offense another year to solidify, especially with Jameson Williams having a full year, to train and practice with the team post recovery. You have a lethal offense with Goff. So I would go defense early.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with any of that. I think that the Seahawks are in a very similar spot. So I've been mulling over this a lot lately, and just playing with the ideas here. I agree with you completely on Bryce Young, by the way. I think 5'10", 185, if he's even 5'10". I saw that picture of him next to
Mark
Ingram. Yeah. And Mark Ingram is barely 5'9".
Well, and everybody bust all over Stetson Bennett, Georgia's quarterback, for being tiny, this undersized guy. He's taller than Bryce Young.
Isn't he like 6'1"?
He's like 5'11", maybe. Okay. He's not yet 6 foot. But at the end of the national championship last year, you could see it. They met face to face, hugged. Stetson is like this, Bryce is like this. And
it's not just that he's short either, because Russell Wilson is short. Russell Wilson was like he was really the one that kind of opened up the Kyler Murray. Exactly. Kyler Murray doesn't go first overall if it's not for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson really kind of unsealed that as a talent package that the NFL talent evaluators were willing to consider. But Russ is built like a tank. He's 5'11", but his BMI is like 31 or something. He's gigantic. And even he's had a lot of issues with injuries. It's funny. If you ever seen his hands, like if you look at him, I remember in the draft season, his hands are larger than Cam Newton's.
No shit.
Yes. He has massive. It's like, it looked like shaking hands with him is like shaking hands with a bunch of bananas. He's just got these massive hands. I've got relatively small hands for a guy. But the thing with Bryce Young is that he's not just short, he's very slight. He's skinny, he's wispy,
he's svelte.
And his ability to navigate the pocket and have a quick release and all of that would just have to be like the best in NFL history, I think, for him to survive that way. And even then, I don't think he's going to. So I think there's a point at which it doesn't matter how talented you are at playing quarterback. If you physically are not up to the task, then you can't. I think he should be drafted. I think someone should draft him and should try him out. But I think even if he is like an elite quarterback in terms of arm talent, processing, ability to read defense, all that sort of thing, like even then I would probably take him max second round. Like he'd be maybe a top 50, top 40, top 50 player to me.
You know what I do with him? I train him how to punt, and then I put everybody on notice every time it's 4th down because we might be going for it, and he can fucking throw it. And that we just put him so far back that like just put him away from all the big uglies that could break his body in half. And learn to kick, dude, because we're gonna be outrageous on 4th down.
The two guys that are probably three guys that are probably most interesting to me are CJ Stroud and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, because all three of them are very toolsy. And see, I keep going back and forth on this and I know it's anybody who's not like a fan of a team that could potentially be drafting a quarterback in the first round. None of this is interesting at all, but we're doing this for our own sake.
It's just you and me. I mean, I see things pop up. I think people are here, but nobody wants a wispy commenter. I know that much.
So if one of these guys, say CJ Stroud or Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, if one of them is a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, or like none of like those guys were not seen as finished products, sure things coming out of college.
No.
And both of them, even Justin Herbert, they had opportunities to develop without having to immediately carry a terrible team. Josh Allen and Justin Herbert kind of a little bit more, but Patrick Mahomes might be the ideal form of like how you would handle a quarterback situation. You have your veteran stopgap. So in this case, Jared Goff or Geno Smith. You have your vet who is not elite, but has the capacity to perform at a high level and can get you into the playoffs, if not advance you far into it. And then you take a toolsy guy who needs some development and you let him sit on the bench and redshirt for a year. Aaron Rodgers did the same thing behind Brett Favre. Being able to sit and do that is, if you have a guy who you rate that way, then there's nothing more valuable in all of sports. I think there is nothing more valuable than an elite quarterback on a rookie contract. It is the most valuable asset in all of sports. And so if you think that that's what the guy is, if you think CJ Stroud or Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, because they're the three guys that I think have the most probability of being that in this class, then I think you have to take them, even if you have an established quarterback. I mean, even if you were someone that has I don't know, like would be a team.
Like a Sam Darnold led Panthers or
Yeah. I was trying to think of someone who has like an established quarterback, but someone that they could upgrade on if they needed to. But as I'm looking down the list here, and I'm like, well, there's nobody.
the Buccaneers, as soon as Tom Brady actually goes and become a Dolphin after Tua finds out he can't play anymore.
Like as I look at this, I'm looking at Houston and Chicago are going to be, depending on the outcome of this week, will determine who actually has the first overall pick.
Yeah.
If it's Houston, you got to think they're taking a quarterback. I can't imagine they're not. If it's Chicago, they're probably not. I think if Chicago has the number one pick, I think they're trying to trade down because they've got
either that or they're going for receiver.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's a receiver in this class that you could justify taking number one overall.
Well, that's true. Maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. if he's coming out, because to me, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver in college football right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming out though. I'm pretty sure he's not, but I don't remember. But
yeah,
so I'm seeing you've got Chicago, who I think they're pretty likely going to trade back. They have so many needs. They have an entire roster they need to fill out. Yeah. One blue chip player isn't going to make that happen for them. You've got the Seahawks, who I would think that they're most likely going to trade back. And then Arizona might stay and pick, but I see Indianapolis, Atlanta at 7, Las Vegas at 8, Carolina at 9, Tennessee at 11, Houston at 12, Jets at 13, Redskins at 14, hell, Pittsburgh at 15. These are all teams that could potentially want to draft a quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, and that's not even going down into the playoff rounds where you might have Tampa Bay maybe want to draft a quarterback. New England may want to draft a quarterback. The Giants may want to draft a quarterback.
I would have the Giants
want to draft a quarterback. I mean, the Vikings may want to draft a quarterback. Like all of these teams could potentially need a quarterback. And by the time you're in the playoff rounds, I don't think you've got the ammo to actually move up that far. But I think that we're going to see a lot of action here in the next 6 weeks or so, as a lot of teams are going to start talking about trading back from the top 2 to 5 to teams that are in the 7 to 14 range. And I just don't see how at least 4 quarterbacks don't go in the top 10 this year.
Yeah. Well, and that was a big reason why I wanted the Falcons to lose and lose again this weekend, so that we could be in the top 5 pick area, so that we could immediately trade back to stockpile draft picks to build the team from the inside out. To me, that is how a smart team would do it. A team that I look forward to rooting for through a rebuild. A rebuild is one thing, where that's just code for we're going to suck for a couple years. So be patient. You will buy yourself a lot of patience from your diehard fan base, the guys that go there when there's only 20,000 people in a 80,000, seat stadium, by doing it correctly. There's a formula to this. Once you already have your lines of scrimmage established, and if you're lucky enough to find that quarterback, also if you're lucky enough to hire a staff that's good enough on developing a quarterback, then it's easy. After that, it's pick and choose your favorite, what do they call it? I'm brain farting on the outside. Your skill players. Then those are the fun picks to make. But right now, you got to make a lot of boring picks, and you got to pass on some of these guys. Because I think Anthony Richardson, first of all, I think it's a mistake that he's coming out. I don't think he's ready. I don't think that thing is cooked yet. He needs at least one more year in college to prove himself, because holy crap, he is rough around the edges. He's going to be a project for any team that picks him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's not picked until the 5th round, to be honest with you. Just because I got to see him up close and personal, being in the SEC, in the division that Georgia's in. Yeah, exactly. I don't think the Lions should. Well, we're building up to why the games that are going to be played this week matter, even when you don't think that they do. So that
Exactly. This has all been planned out. We know exactly what we're doing here. We're
Yeah, we had
definitely
a-
not just shooting from the hip.
now we had a pregame meeting. I got notes somewhere. I mean, we are professionals, Justin. But we just had to get the Lions Packers out of the way because, start from the front, work our way backwards, I guess, this week. Why not?
Yeah. All right. So going from the top, Kansas City and Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City at Las Vegas. This is the highest total of the week, 52.5. Kansas City is laying 9.5. After this last week, it's too bad we don't have Buck here to talk about his beloved Raiders, because holy hell, Jarrett Stidham, more like. Where did that come from?
I've never seen that before. Going back to college, he had never done what he did this past weekend, which immediately led me to ask questions. Is this simply because they don't have tape on him? And is it because the NFL is more about scheme and practice and the right play calls and positioning your players in the right area and assignment football? Or is it just let your best players go make the best plays? Because I don't think Jarrett Stidham is the best player.
No,
but he played like it this past weekend. I was just as surprised as everybody. And I think Buck, he was being honest, he's like, I had to breathe before I even said this, but I think we're in good hands with Jarrett Stidham, kind of lubing up the fan base for letting Derek Carr go is what I'm seeing happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Carr's going to wind up. I'm going to make my call now. I think Carr winds up on the Jets. I think that makes the most sense. I think that the Jets are not going to be in a spot to draft a potentially starting quarterback in the first year. I think Mike White's clearly not it. Zach Wilson's clearly not it.
No.
And I don't think that Brady's going to want to go there. There's a number of other, some other vets that are going to move around, but I think that that's a really good match. I think that I have to think about this. It's which LaFleur brother. Anyway, the offense, the Jets offense is run by a McFleur. Well, fuck, why can't I not talk? By a LaFleur. The Jets offensive coordinator is the brother of the Packers head coach. And so there's that same influence there. You had all the rumors last year connecting the Packers and there's people bandying about the idea of the Packers and Raiders doing a quarterback swap, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's stepping right into a team with fantastic offensive talent, fantastic offensive line, potentially the best defense in football. I think that if Derek Carr is going to be successful, it's going to be in an environment like that. And I think that the Jets are a team that can afford to take a shot on someone like Derek Carr, because I don't think Derek Carr is a bad quarterback per se. I just think he's not a quarterback who's going to paper over a bunch of flaws on a team. So, Jarrett Stidham is, to stick on this game, very clearly he's earned himself a shot. I don't think that the Raiders go into 2023 with Jarrett Stidham penciled in as their starter for the whole season. Now, if he comes out and he lights up Kansas City like he did the 49ers, and Kansas City's defense is nothing like the 49ers defense, then maybe there's a little something there. Maybe the Patriots are a little disappointed that they let him get away so easily because they're trapped in the Mac Jones experience.
So right now, the Chiefs have the division clinched, but I don't think they have the number one spot clinched because of what happened in Cincinnati with Buffalo and Cincinnati.
Yep.
So I think Kansas City, and with that not being fully fleshed out, they have not, and I'm actually surprised we made it over an hour and haven't even mentioned it, which I personally think good on us.
Yes.
Because holy hell, I have had an ass full of all the different ways you can talk about the thing. But they have not rescheduled Buffalo Cincinnati. It could just be canceled, depending on if Kansas City wins, which I think they will, versus the Raiders, then they won't have a need to play that game.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain there's certain ways that this current week goes where it can negate that game from ever being made up. It might be made up as it being a playoff game if things end up working out that way. But a regular season game, I don't think that the desire's there. So this game against the Raiders matters for the Chiefs because they have an opening. It's like you almost got a second chance to clinch that number one spot without any threat to it, but you gotta take care of it this week and just win. So I think that is what keeps Kansas City mashing the gas. And I don't think you're going to have because even at this, remember, like everyone's goo goo gaga over Jared Stidham. That was still in a losing effort.
Mm-hmm.
So he could still ball out of control, which will be good for fans' hopes. But I don't think that they have the horses in the stable to beat the Chiefs. I think if the Chiefs already had this thing nabbed up to where, say, Cincinnati, let's say Monday night was able to finish and Cincinnati won that game, then I think you see the Chiefs take a step back and not risk injury and start working on some, relaxing, enjoying their time in Vegas. But because that's not the case, give me the Chiefs by a lot. I hope Stidham plays well because I want Derek Carr to land in a good spot and be happy that he's out of there. But that is all right. Sorry, I had to click back over. Yeah, Chiefs are favored 9.5 points. It's at 4:30 this Saturday. They're the only game that's going to be on at the time, so count this basically as a primetime game. Patrick Mahomes is going to do Patrick Mahomes things. Should be interesting to watch. I'm glad I don't have a dog in the fight. I think Buck. I think the Chiefs win by 10 points or more.
I was looking at the standings here, and right now the Chiefs are 13-3. The Bills are 12-3. The Bengals are 11-4. So you have the Chiefs in the 1 seed, Bills in the 2 seed, Bengals in the 3 seed. If the Bengals had won that game, they would be 12-4, and the Bills would be 12-4. They would have the same conference record. So then I think what's the next tiebreaker? It would be
winning percentage.
They'd have the same. I think it would have to be strength of schedule.
Yeah, it goes record, head to head, and then I think conference record, and then given all the
So head to head. So then they would be tied on record, but the Bengals would be ahead of them because of the head to head. So Bengals would be in the 2 seed, and then the Chiefs. So you'd be coming into this week with the Bengals a game behind the Chiefs. As it is now, what I'm thinking is most likely is exactly what you said, that they're going to wait to see what happens in this week's games. And if the Chiefs lose, the Bengals win, and the Bills lose, for example, then you're going to have the Bengals and the Bills tied on record, Bengals ahead on a tie break, and then a game behind the Chiefs. So then I think then they would reschedule the game, because there's very clear implications here. I know that Joe Burrow said in an interview today that the Bengals have told the Bills that they will accept whatever they want to do, essentially. So if the Bills decide they want to just not play the game, which has happened in the past. There's been times in the past where some teams played 15 games and the rest of the league played 16 games, and they just went by winning percentage instead of record.
Yeah.
In this case, that would be very gracious by the Bengals, because they could be potentially sacrificing the difference between the number 2 seed and the number 3 seed, which it's not massive, but it's not nothing. Especially if they run into each other again, then you're essentially sacrificing home field advantage in the playoffs. It'd be very gracious of them. It's a unprecedented situation. Okay. I think that how the Chiefs game turns out, like you said, is going to determine whether or not the game gets played. Because if the Chiefs lose and both the Bengals and the Bills win, then the outcome of the Bengals and Bills game determines the number 1 seed.
Yeah. And I think that the way you could do it, and this would suck, it'd be a little different. Have them play on Wild Card Weekend. It's a de facto playoff game, even though it's a regular season game. And they would have to forfeit a bye. by doing it like that. Or there's no longer a Pro Bowl game, so just
Move everything back a week.
yeah. Now you
Yeah.
can't move the Super Bowl because that is locked in. The amount of scheduling and buying up the city for that, you can't do that. But you're gonna lose a bye somewhere. Whether
Yeah,
it's
you lose the bye, the bye between the championship games and the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And so both teams lose the bye. It's not like one team's losing a bye and the others aren't. There's not a competitive advantage thing there. You just move the whole playoff schedule back a week.
Which to
And-
me is preferable because the longest 2-week period of the year as a sports fan is that, especially that weekend in between the last, the championship round and the Super Bowl, where there's just diddly
Nothing.
fuck.
Yeah.
And especially now that they have deemed the Pro Bowl, thankfully, not worthy of watching. They just don't have it anymore.
Mhm.
But it's just like, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah, there's
with
no
my
action happening. There's no news. It's just dead. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. So I say just get rid of that week and let her rip.
And I think
me-
this is going to sound like super insensitive. So fuck you. I don't care about your feelings. I think if the Bills are like, we don't want to play that game over again, it's just too hard for us. Fuck off with that. Like,
Then they're too soft. They're too soft for the playoffs.
what's the difference between playing that game and playing the exact same team in the playoffs? What are you going to do if you get you're both in the playoffs and it turns out that you're playing that exact same team in the playoffs? You're still playing that team. Are you going to opt out of that game? Because it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
I don't see any way that they could reason. I mean, everyone is going to just laud them from here to kingdom come because our entire culture is run by pussies. But that, like, it seems preposterous to me that if the game determines the number 1 seed, they would be like, no, it's too much. We can't play.
Yeah. Well, you get a $1.5 million bonus, but if you get the number 1 seed, I would rather donate it to his toy drive. Just take it from me. I'd like to see a little more ball. Like I get, hey, in the moment when you're seeing CPR being done, like I understand, like
Yeah.
you just have that visceral reaction. Yeah, cancel the game, push it back if you did, whatever. I don't care about that. I care about that as much as I care about whether or not what the true cause of his cardiac arrest is. I don't give a shit if he was hopped up on Red Bulls because he's nervous because he wasn't a starter coming into the season, or if he had to go to see the doctor in order to be employed in the state of New York, 3 or 4 times over the last 2 years to get an injection. I don't care. I really don't. It's natural that your mind goes that direction, but seeing that hit, I was like, yeah, he took a massive blow to the chest, like directly to the chest. And I've always thought this ever since I was a kid. Fuck it, I guess we're in it now. Sorry, Justin. Picks to be continued. But I've always thought this with just the physics that are involved and the finiteness of human life and the limits of the human body. Eventually, all of the environmental situations will be perfect for just a perfect hit to just take somebody off this earth. It happens all the time. Nice. It happens all the time in car wreck, like in NASCAR. You see wrecks where cars tumble over 15 times. The dude gets out and he's like, I'll be back next week, bitches. But then you see Dale Earnhardt, weakest accident of all time, fucking dead. It's just because the way that the shit jostles around inside you. If anything, I'm more surprised that there aren't an average of 1 death every 5 years on the field in the NFL, just due to the human meat wagon not being able to withstand that level of impact. Perfect example, Bryce Young getting mulled over by fill in the blank nose tackle. Like, you put that guy out on the street, he's dead. He's fucking dead. You killed him. Like, there's so many times where you see a guy get punched, he goes down, hits his head, boom, dead. So I'm not, oh my God, it happened. I'm like, damn, this is what I thought we'd be seeing a lot more of, to be honest with you. I'm kind of surprised it took this long.
And even if it was like, even if there was a death on the field every 5 years, I would still watch the sport. And I would still think people who pearl clutched about it were
fucking pussies.
Yeah, I was going to say that works. I was going to say another F word, but probably we'll save this
Bundle-
YouTube channel for now.
Bundle of sticks. Would
Yeah.
you? Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah,
Ain't it?
I don't know. It's the pearl clutching by this point is making me really not give a shit. It's like, look, he's not playing football again. Like, that's off the table. Like, it ain't gonna happen. And if it does, then write the story then. But holy hell, do we love a cause? And as in we, the American society.
Mhm.
Give us a cause, and ooh, baby, I can't change my profile pic quick enough. Are there profile banners already? You know, we are Buffalo or some shit.
I know that all of
guarantee
every NFL Twitter account has a picture. It's like it's blue with his number 3, and then it said something above it. I don't remember. Like, we stand with DeMar or whatever.
Yeah, it goes without saying, I'm not rooting for death in an entertainment arena. Not yet, anyway. I don't know. We can go back to Roman times. I could be swayed into it, but that's not the name of the game. Like, the number of deaths doesn't equate a win. If you change the rules to where it does, then I want the other team to fucking be buried on the field, literally. So no, I'm not rooting for a guy who didn't go there with the intent of dying to end up fucking dying. That doesn't even need to be said. Like, obviously, that's what we all like. I hope and pray that he recovers. Don't give a shit if he ever plays football again. Didn't know him before Monday, to be honest with you. Never heard of the guy. Not a fan of the Bills. We can stop 24-hour coverage on it. Playoffs are still here. There's still time marches on. Sucks that happened. Here's the thing. There's not a safety protocol. There's not a different way you can tackle. There's not a stretch you can do. There's not a drink you can take that's going to prevent that shit. So why are we going to, like, why spend any more time on what's his status in the hospital? How's he doing? Non-football related. Don't give a shit. As a human, is he okay? He's still alive? Cool. I'll check in tomorrow. What are the lines for next week? And I kind of enjoyed that Skip Bayless was getting dragged so hard on Twitter because he thought what I guarantee you millions of people thought the second the guy was down for 9 minutes. What are they going to do about this game?
Right.
But I didn't go to Twitter and say it because I know what level of fucking retardism exists on that platform. But I hate Skip Bayless because he's a chode, so I enjoyed watching him walk into that just so he can get drugged for 12 straight hours. Fuck, I loved it. That was the most entertaining part of my evening. I was like, because you had people saying it's 100% the jab. You had other people saying, why aren't they canceling the game sooner? And then right in the middle, you had Skip going, when are they going to reschedule the game? They have to do it. They have to, like, it seems pointless, but seriously, this is, that motherfucker had money on the line.
Oh, yeah.
But anytime he gets dragged on Twitter, I don't give a shit if he's right, wrong, cringe, whatever. I fucking eat it up.
I have no doubt at all that he knew exactly what he was doing when he tweeted that too. He knew exactly that he was going to get shit all over.
Just so that he can go into Undisputed the next day and Shannon could sit there and be like, Skip, man, you did it. And sure, drag me for doing Shannon Sharp, whatever. He's like, no, Skip. You can't go do that. Oh, man. Do we have a filter here? I'd do it. No, Skip, you can't. Come on, man. You don't care because he was black. And that's what a bunch of the rest of the dumb shit was. And at that point, I was like, I no longer care about any of this. Just how does it affect seating? And when can we get back to doing the thing that we came here for? Because you know the number of people that probably dropped dead of a heart attack that night in Cincinnati that just weren't a football player?
Mm-hmm.
None of them are getting $6 million because there were cameras on it. So sorry. Call me cold-hearted, cold-blooded, heartless, whatever you call me, it just lets me know that you're the fact. Bundle of sticks.
Bingo. Okay, so speaking of what we're here for.
Oh my God, sorry. My autism just went fucking overdrive.
You went full Mark Metz on us.
Nice.
All right. So I have a time limit on when I got to be out of here. So we should blow through these picks.
Let's do it.
So Tennessee at Jacksonville. this is an interesting one because this one is for all of the marbles in the division.
Mhm.
Although the Jags, I think, given how things fell out last week, the Jags still have the possibility of wild card spot. So the Jags don't have to win this game. They can still make the playoffs even if they lose. Tennessee, on the other hand, has to win this game behind Josh Dobbs. I was pretty impressed with Dobbs last week. He looked like a competent quarterback. He looked like someone who should at least be paid well as a backup. And maybe even someone that a team that's desperate for, a team like the Panthers this season could have used a Josh Dobbs for 6 weeks to see if he has something.
Nice.
But in this particular case here, I don't think even Derrick Henry is going to save him. I think that this Jags team, I have been on them from the beginning of the season. I think they're set up very well to be like the 2007 Giants, where kind of bad, or even the 2005 Steelers, where they back in as the wild card team, kind of up and down during the season, and then just go on a heater through the playoffs. I think Trevor Lawrence, isn't it crazy how Trevor Lawrence got twisted up in a pretzel, his leg and ankle bent in ways that legs and ankles are not supposed to bend. He writhed around on the ground in agony, was carted off the field, and then came back out and hasn't lost a game since then. And has been like one of the best quarterbacks. They're like, oh, it's just a sprained toe.
What?
How?
I've watched Julio Jones have a toe take him out for an entire season. I don't know what this guy's getting injected with, but he must be getting the actual good injection.
Yeah. I'm gonna call. I think Jags are gonna win this, and I think they're gonna win this by at least a touchdown.
Hell yeah! No, I think the Jags win because I have no faith in the Titans, and I hope they go on a heater through the playoffs. It'll make it interesting for us non-invested fans. Buccaneers at the Falcons. Buccaneers win because even if they lose, it doesn't matter. I really can't root for the Falcons winning another game. 7-10 is not what I want out of this team this year. It's only going to hurt us in the long run. So please, for the love of God, I'm not rooting for Tom Brady because I never would. I'm rooting for a Falcons loss.
What's very odd about this game is that the Falcons are favored.
I know.
How?
What the hell did they know that I don't know? Mike Evans just caught 3 touchdowns last week against the Panthers. What do you think he's going to do to us?
You know what's crazy? Here's a crazy stat for you. The Bucs had 2 plays over 30 yards all season.
Yep.
Prior to last week. And then Mike Evans caught 3 30-plus yard touchdowns last week.
Yeah. I saw somebody win their fantasy league simply by starting Tom Brady because I think they had Jalen Hurts on their bench. And Tom Brady got 75 points in that league.
Oh, Jesus.
Because he was responsible for 4 or 5 touchdowns. And it was
I think he ran in a touchdown and he threw 3 and he
but,
threw for
but the 3 that he
yards.
threw were because there's points for 20-yard touchdowns and then 30-yard and then 40-yard or whatever. And it just was fucking insane. But anyway, I'm rooting for a Falcons loss. I fucking hate the Bucs. I hate Tom Brady even more than that team. So fuck it.
What this tells me is that Vegas thinks that the Bucs are going to be sitting their starters because I think the Bucs can't change. I think they're locked into the 4 seed. They can't change. They can't go up or down. So I think they're saying that even though whatever their fucking head coach's name is, even though he said that they're not going to be sitting their starters, I think Vegas thinks that they're going to be sitting their starters. And then the Falcons are at home. I actually think that given that, I think that there's a good chance that the Falcons actually win this game. And I think that tanking is never something that coaches or players get involved in. It's always a front office thing. So these players are putting film out. They're it could cost themselves money by playing poorly. So you're not going to get a player half-assing it. And the players know that half-assing it is a good way to get yourself hurt. It's a lot easier to get hurt playing at 70% than it is playing at 100%. Your body doesn't respond right. So I think that the Falcons are going to be playing hard to win this game. I think that assuming Tampa Bay's this isn't assuming that Tampa Bay is sitting their starters. I mean, Blaine Gabbert, is that who the starter is going to be?
Fuck if I know, but yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna call Falcons by field goal.
Yeah, I know, and you're probably right. And I'll be honest, if I was just picking this game, without any fog, I would say the same. But don't want it. Patriots at Bills. And as far as I know, like this game's not in any question for delay or any of that stuff. Like they're moving forward. The team is going to play. The Patriots showed me some good things this year. They've also showed me some terrible things this year. The Raiders just entered the chat. But I think with the morale horseshoe shoved firmly up their asses at this moment, I don't think you can touch the Bills, and I don't think the Patriots get close. I think they come out with a purpose, and anytime you have a team that's already good playing for a cause, you good luck, especially at home. Holy crap, Patriots are going to get smoked.
Yep, I am fully on board with you on that. I think this is a Bills win and cover type of a situation. Currently the line's at 42. Bills are favored by 6.5. I think that the Bills are probably going to score 42 points.
Yeah. And then Vikings at Bears. I don't know enough about the standings or the seedings to know if the Vikings need this win or not.
So they can, if the 49ers lose at home against the Cardinals and the Vikings win this game, then the Vikings can move up to the number 2 seed. But that requires the 49ers losing to the Cardinals at home.
Not even the Falcons could do that. So that's not happening, which then means, okay, well, if the 49ers win, then if it doesn't matter, the Vikings...
Nathan Peterman is starting for the Bears.
Oh, man. So, okay, Vikings win only because the Bears will be so damn bad. That seems pretty easy. Oh, my God.
I'm going to call that so Vikings are favored by 7.5 on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are going to cover that spread.
Ravens at Bengals. By the way, we didn't mention this the whole time we were talking about the injury, but can we all agree that the Cincinnati field is cursed? Like
that was Tua's, right?
Yeah, that's where Tua got hurt. That's where Shazier got his injury. Also,
Really?
David Pollock back in the day broke his neck on that field. There's a history of major career-ending injuries on that field. Just saying, maybe, hey, conspiracy theorists out there, look into it. What's under that stadium? I don't believe in the Ravens. I think the Bengals, they were probably on their way of winning that game on Monday. I mean, the game got stopped. They were up 7-3. I know it was 5 minutes left in the first quarter. But yeah, give me Cincinnati. I think that Cincinnati has found their form, and they're back where they were at a pretty close spot where they were 12 months ago, but one more year experience. So I wouldn't want to fuck with them. The Ravens I don't know how they have double-digit wins. Yeah. We need a cop to shoot somebody at the 50-yard line so that we can get this stadium removed. That's all I'm saying.
I think the Bengals were going to beat the Bills in that game. I think that's where I had all my money on.
Yeah.
So this is I think Lamar Jackson's going to be back, but I think that the Bengals right now, I might call the Bengals the best team in the AFC right now. Best team in football. I might say that. I might call them the best team in football. I think that their defense is very, very good. Ever since DJ Reader came back, you can't run on them. Their pass defense is phenomenal. Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, is a brilliant game day strategist. I've listened to a few different podcasts detailing the way that they come out with like a different schematic approach almost every game that's tailor-made to the team that they're playing. And they can do so many different things. And then Joe Burrow is like I would say that Joe Burrow is the best game manager in the NFL. And I say that as a compliment. I think that he is an elite game manager. He's not the like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, like freak of nature that will just single-handedly take over the game and run and pass. I mean, he's a very good, he's an underrated runner. But he will absolutely squeeze every last little bit of juice out of the existing scheme that's there. Yeah, I think that this is these division games, especially AFC North, especially with stakes, it's going to be a slobber knocker and they can be messy. But the fact that Vegas has Cincy favored by 7 against a Ravens team that is statistically very good. And this is with the assumption that Lamar Jackson is playing. The fact that they're still favored by 7 makes me very comfortable in picking Cincinnati to not just win, but cover.
Yeah. And just real quick, I prefer game manager. I never saw game manager as a pejorative like everybody else intended it to be. I would much rather not have such value placed in one position because one injury can make your team null and void. I want my starting quarterback and backup to be just only removed by a little bit, but both be game managers. I want them to be able to utilize the talent of the team that we built around you. I do not want Michael Vick anymore. I am not the guy that's like, if he's on the field, anything could happen. I would rather have, when he's on the field, you know exactly what's going to happen. And we're going to beat you by just having a better scheme and talent on the outsides. But I just wanted to
hate
throw
Tom
that
Brady.
Only because he has proven why I like game managers. I just don't like, that game manager proved exactly why game managers is not a pejorative when you come back from 25 points down in a fucking Super Bowl. God damn it.
It's no coincidence that the two basically consensus best quarterbacks of all time. Like if someone asks you who are the best quarterbacks of all time, most people are going to say Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Drew Brees.
Yep. All of those guys are all game managers.
Yeah. I only hate Tom Brady out of nothing but pure, unadulterated spite. That's it. It has nothing to do with his pictures with his son, creepy sayings, his face is sunken in. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's clearly what he did in Houston and around this time of the year in 2017. Speaking of Houston, they're going to Indy. And I think that they avenged their tie to fuck you, Justin. I think they avenged their tie and they turned that tie into a win. I have actually been impressed with how the Texans have played with damn near no roster to speak of. They had a running back in Pierce that was lighting the world on fire. Then he's out. Nobody knows who the quarterback is. Lovie Smith's beard's even wider than it was at the beginning of the year. The Colts have just made me enjoy the fact that Matt Ryan's not a Falcon, even more so than I thought it was ever possible. Give me the Texans.
I thought I was going to surprise you with this one, but I'm picking the Texans too. I think if they were going to, people say, what we have right now here is that the Bears are going to have the number 1 pick, because if the Bears would lose to the Vikings and the Texans beat the Patriots, then they swap. And I think people are saying, oh no, they don't want to give it the number 1 pick. I think if you think that this Texans team is going to lay down so that they retain the number 1 pick, you haven't watched this Texans team. If they were going to lay down, they would have laid down already this season. But
I agree with Justin's comment, by the way.
Yeah, I do too. Imagine being able to be a commenter on the show and also able to put your comments up on the screen.
It's a good position. But
I mean, the Texans got their faces pushed in by the Jags last week, but I don't think that was for lack of trying. I think that the Jags, it's a division game, and division games are just weird, and the Jags had something to play for. I think that the Cowboys and the Chiefs both underestimated the Texans, which you don't underestimate your division opponents. Those are games there's a lot of loaded sentiment there. Yeah. The Chiefs and the Cowboys both underestimated the Texans, and the Texans showed up to play. And again, you've got a divisional game here. And I think Sam Ehlinger, the Colts have become just such a dumpster fire that that I see the Texans coming in and winning this one.
Yep. Anybody that's watched the Texans this season knows that they haven't laid down a single game yet. And I don't expect all of a sudden now, because it's the final week, for them to take that off. Jets at Dolphins.
I
really wanted to be
the playoff implications of this game. So the Jets are eliminated.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are on the bubble. They're 8-8.
They need help. Yeah.
So
They're like the
they-
Lions and the Packers and the Seahawks in the sense that they need a win and I think a team or two to lose. I'm not fully abreast of all of the playoff scenarios that need to play out.
I think I've got it figured out here. They need the Bills to beat the Patriots.
Check.
And then if they win this game, they would jump the Patriot. They would move into the 7th seed. Now, you've also got the Steelers, who, as of right now, I don't know what this means that they're ranked behind them, but the Steelers are also 8-8. And if the Steelers beat the Browns, you would have the Steelers and the Dolphins would both be 9-8. So now I've got to see where that puts them in terms of tiebreakers. So Miami wins the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh based on head-to-head win percentage. So both the Patriots and the Dolphins have a tiebreaker on the Steelers. So the Steelers need the Dolphins and the Patriots to lose for them to make the playoffs. So if the Patriots lose to the Bills and the Dolphins beat the Jets, then the Dolphins make the playoffs behind Skylar Thompson.
Yep. Yeah. Ooh. It's hard for me to pick the Dolphins. I kind of like chaos though. So I kind of hope that the Dolphins win and the Steelers win. The Steelers miss the playoffs. They're too young of a team. They wouldn't do diddly shit in the playoffs anyway. The Dolphins, if there's any hope of getting Tua back to a playable form, or Teddy Bridgewater, I know that he had a hand injury and that's going to keep him out or whatever. I'm only picking games at this point based on my rooting interest. Dolphins. I want them to get in the playoffs because their offense, at least their skill positions, are so talented that if you just have a competent quarterback, you could probably make some noise or at least make games interesting. If the Steelers get in the playoffs, fucking boring as shit. So yeah, I got to root for the Dolphins. I do see this as entertainment, regardless of what Nina Turner tweets. Entertain me, guys. So yeah, give me the Dolphins.
So what we're saying is that it's unavoidable that one of the Dolphins, the Steelers, or the Patriots is going to make the playoffs.
Dolphins all day long.
Ugh.
Most entertaining team out of the three.
I was going to pick the Jets, but because I think the Jets are better than the Skylar Thompson led Dolphins, but I'm gonna feed into the butterfly effect here and do everything I can to will the Dolphins in. So I'm gonna pick the Dolphins.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the Jets, talent wise, will probably win this game, but I don't want that to happen. Panthers at Saints. Don't give a shit because I hate the Saints more than any other team in the NFL. The only way I could hate him more is if Tom Brady goes and finishes his career being a Saint. I will always hate the Saints. There's not a scenario on this planet that's possible for me to do anything other than hate them. I'm rooting for a Saints loss, not a Panthers win. I think you see a theme here involving the NFC South. I hate them all. Give me the Panthers. I want both teams to walk out of the stadium 7-10. Falcons will be 7-10. The Buccaneers will be 8-9, and poof, that's the NFC South. It's perfect.
Perfect as God intended it to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is both teams are eliminated. New Orleans is favored by 3.5. I'm gonna go. My rule is bad teams take the home team. So I'm gonna take the Saints. How would you feel about the Saints? How would your sentiments toward the Saints change if Sean Payton was back?
I'll tell you right now. I'm already pissed off that what happened on Monday happened in Cincinnati and not in New Orleans. That's my feeling if Sean Payton comes back to the Saints.
Understood.
Browns at Steelers. I think I already showed my hand.
Yeah, I agree. Steelers win.
Steelers win. The Browns, they showed no semblance of being a better team with Deshaun Watson, but I'm also fully understanding that it takes time. I just went on a whole diatribe for 20 minutes about an hour ago about You have to be patient when you're learning a system and getting acclimated to that system. There's no reason to expect Deshaun Watson was going to come in after 2 years not playing and all of a sudden just light the world on fire. I think they're a bad team with a lot of talented players. They might make noise next year, but next year's not this Sunday. So Steelers.
I'm looking at, I wanted to see where the Steelers were at DVOA rankings here. So Pittsburgh, got to scroll way down here. Interesting. So Cleveland is actually ahead of Pittsburgh in total DVOA. However, that is driven by largely their offensive scores, which have dropped off a lot.
Off a freaking cliff.
Yeah, since
over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, they're still 8th. They still have the 8th best offensive DVOA in the league. So they haven't been, I guess, as bad because it evaluates it on a per play basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're efficient on a per play basis, but you have a slow offense or you're not necessarily putting up massive stats, it'll still say that you're an efficient offense.
Yeah.
So they're 11th in total DVOA. That's 8th offense, 22nd defense, 13th special teams. Says they've been a little unlucky. Their estimated wins is 9, and they have 7. So
not gonna make it.
Yep. Then the Steelers are 16th, so 11th down to 16th. They have the 18th offense, 11th defense, 29th special teams. They're 8-8, and it says their estimated wins is 8.1. So they are who we thought they were.
That 29th special teams, though, that's very not Steelers like.
No. Yeah. So you've got the 8th offense again, although I'd say that 8th offense is probably more like 15th, maybe, against the 11th defense. You've got the 22nd defense against the 18th offense, and you got the 29th special teams against the 13th special teams. Can I call a tie?
Well, and not to mention the Steelers offense has shown a vast improvement. They've gotten a running game. Najee has been able to run now. I think
Cleveland is a team you can run against.
Yep. And I think that Pickett has grown more. He's gotten more confident in Freiermuth, Pickens, and Deontay. That offense is on an upward trend. And I think even if you take their season ranking, I think you can probably bump them up 3 spots just on how they've played over the last 2 to 3 weeks, comparatively speaking to how they played for the first 15.
I think the Steelers are probably going to try to run the ball like 45 times in this game. And I think that the Browns are going to let them. The Browns have the 29th ranked rush defense by DVOA. The only teams that are worse are the Bears, the Packers, and the Giants.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, their pass defense is 13th. So the pass defense is they're a run funnel team playing a team that wants to run the ball like hell. That's a setup for disaster, especially on the road. So yeah, this would be a Steelers comfortable win.
Once you said where the Packers are on run defense, I'm starting to get a little nervous about the Lions and their duo of backs. It's going to be a good game. I'll be watching it. All right, so we're both on the Steelers. Next game down is Chargers at Broncos. Broncos favored by 2. What are you doing, Vegas? Are the Chargers already locked into a playoff spot where they're sitting some people?
I don't know if they're sitting people, but I do think that they are locked in. They're 10-6. So
if they are locked in, they would benefit greatly by sitting players with all of the injuries that they had to withstand throughout the entire season. Anytime you get where you're not having to put your body through that is only a possible potential positive. If that's the case, that's going to who am I kidding? I can't pick the Broncos this far into the season. We know what they are. Yeah, I don't even care that they're favored. And I don't even know who their backup quarterback is, but the Broncos are just so bad that I think that they will create and they will manufacture a way to lose. So give me the Chargers. That's as deep that's as deep intake as I can get you.
So the situation here is the Ravens and the Chargers are both 10-6.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens right now, the Chargers have the tiebreaker against them. I don't know what it is, but they've got the tiebreaker against them. The Ravens are playing the Bengals. They're playing them. Hold on, there's a schedule here. So the Ravens play the Bengals in the morning, or the early games. West Coast guy here.
Yep.
They play them in the early games, and then by the time that the Chargers play, they're already going to know the outcome. And even if they were to both lose, it looks like the Chargers are already, they have the tiebreaker over Baltimore based on best win percentage in conference games. So even if both of them lose, the Chargers are still going to be ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because
what are they, like the 5th seed or something like that?
5th seed, yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're probably sitting.
In.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they're probably gonna I could see them coming out and playing the first half and trying to get up, like put up some points and get a lead, and then just try to nurse it in the second half. I'm going to take the Broncos because I think I'm gambling, or I'm betting that the boost that the Broncos got last week against the Chiefs was not just them playing well against the Chiefs because they played well against the Chiefs before. And they just have the Chiefs number they still lost, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm going to say here that I think that the Chargers are going to be coasting and the Broncos are going to be playing for pride. And essentially what I'm saying here is that the Seahawks pick is going to be getting worse, while the Seahawks are also, so they're going both directions anyways. So I'm going to call Broncos win.
And I could easily see that as a possibility. This final week of the year is always kind of like this, where it's like the better team loses just because they're the better team and they don't have to do anything, which is kind of bullshit, but I understand. I would like everybody to try, to win every game, but except for the Falcons. Fuck them. Giants at Eagles. Again, the Eagles, they've lost 2 in a row.
This line is surprising to me because right now the Eagles are favored by 14.
I know, which
I do not. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to be back, and he should be relatively healthy, but I do not see them beating the Giants by 14.
And it's the second most ridiculous line of the week because it's even crazier than Kansas City and Las Vegas. Because the next game we're talking about has even a wider spread. But yeah, by 14,
I guess
again,
they played a few weeks ago and beat them 48-22.
That's true. But a lot of that was opportunistic plays by the defense where a pass would get batted up. Or no, it was actually more opportunistic on the Giants defense just not showing up, and Devontae Smith just being all alone on an island with if you can throw it to me, you can wait a few seconds, I got to tie my shoe and then throw it to me and then I'll run it in. I thought that was an odd performance. It was in New York, and to me, I was just like, what the fuck is this? I don't see that being a repeat, but I still think the Eagles win. I would have picked the Eagles in their last 2 weeks that were in losses, and they still played their asses off. And I don't think that changes. The Eagles, to me, haven't taken a week off. Even in their loss to the Skins and the Cowboys and whoever the fuck they played last week, wasn't paying attention. They still haven't. I haven't seen any quit in them, and I don't know why they would now. It's a division game, so I mean, yeah, they want this just as bad. 14 wins is a damn good year at any point in the NFL, season or NFL history. So yeah, give me the Eagles.
The number 1 seed would be up for grabs here if they were to lose, because right now
that would be up for the Niners, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So the Niners have the tiebreak over Minnesota, but if the Niners win, hold on here. Okay, so Niners are playing the Cardinals, so they're playing a conference game. Niners are 9-2. Eagles are 8-3. If the Eagles lose this game, then conference record, they would be behind the 49ers. They would both be 13-4.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next? So I don't think they played each other this year. No,
They
they
have
didn't
not.
play each other this year. So it's going to go to conference record.
Yeah.
So
So they need this.
they need this game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me the Eagles all day long.
Yep.
Because the Giants clinched a playoff spot, if I remember correctly. So
Yes.
they don't have to win this. They're not going to improve their seating. They're on the road no matter what. So the team that needs it is the team I'm going with. Similarly speaking, the next game, Cardinals at 49ers. This is the even dumber spread. 49ers favored by 14.5. I would probably actually say 49ers cover. The Cardinals
so
are
too.
that bad. I know it's JJ Watt's last game. I don't believe that he's actually retiring. Whether or not he plays as a Cardinal again, couldn't tell you. But
I don't think the Cardinals fans care that much about him. It's not like he's a franchise icon
no,
where
but
everyone's going to all get up because he's retiring.
no. And I just saw the Cardinals last week. They're god awful. I am so glad that's not my team. Yeah, that's right. You heard me right. I'm glad that I have the Falcons to root for over the fucking Cardinals. They are that fucking embarrassing. 49ers win by fill in the blank, shitload of points. It's going to be gross. Unless you have anything else to say about that
Nope.
game. Rams at Seahawks. I think we kind of already covered it pretty good. Seahawks need this win. Let the cards fall where they may elsewhere on, what other teams do, but the Seahawks can't lose this game.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are only out there to play spoiler,
Which the
Baker-
Rams love to play spoiler against the Seahawks.
but Baker Mayfield, I don't have any faith in Baker to be the spoiler. Again, kind of going back to Jared Stidham, is it because he's that talented or because they just don't have a game plan for him yet? Same thing with Baker. 2 days of learning the playbook. Oh, he went out and beat the Raiders. But I still don't all of a sudden think Baker's a NFL, game-winning quarterback. And I don't think that changes here.
The Seahawks absolutely shit down Mike White's neck last week. And he had a lot more talent around him than Baker does in there. And Aaron Donald is not playing. He's the one who usually makes the Seahawks very sad. So, yeah, I think that Seahawks are favored by 6.5. I think that the Rams probably cover. I see this as being I was going to say 23-17, and I mean, that wouldn't be them cover. Oh, yeah, 23-17. Yeah, I see this being like a 23-17 kind of game. 23-20,
Yep.
somewhere in there.
Yep, I agree. Cowboys at Skins. I just root for whatever's the most chaotic. Skins have been eliminated from the playoffs. I'm not really rooting for a spoiler here. I think that if the Cowboys win and they get to 13-4, that only makes it more congested at the top. Even though they won't get the top spot, I love seeing Cowboys fans in agony, and that would be the closest thing that could happen. Because also, if they lose, it's not like they drop really, And I'm kind of speaking out of my ass, just taking up time until you're able to look up what the playoff ramifications of this game could be.
So if the 49ers lose and the Eagles, holy shit, okay. It's not inconceivable that we have a three-way tie at the top here.
That's what I'm
because
rooting for.
The Eagles are 13-3.
Yeah.
The 49ers and the Cowboys are both 12-4. So the Cowboys, hold on. Okay, so the Cowboys and the Eagles, we have to determine that tiebreak first because
they split.
They're the division.
They split head to head.
Yep. So then the division record, Cowboys are 4-1, Eagles are 3-2.
Oh shit.
So if the Cowboys win and the Eagles lose, the Cowboys win the division. Then the Cowboys and the 49ers. So if the Cowboys win this game, so they win the division, they would be 9-3 in their conference record. The 49ers would have to lose to the Cardinals. So this is all just academic. The 49ers would have to lose to the Cardinals. They would each be 9-3 in their conference record. I don't think that the 49ers and Cowboys played each other this year.
Nope.
So then it's going to go to strength of schedule. And as of right now, the Cowboys' strength of schedule is harder than the 49ers. So if the Eagles and the 49ers lose and the Cowboys win, the Cowboys can get the number 1 seed. But if the 49ers win, the Eagles lose, the Cowboys win, the Cowboys get the number 2 seed because they win the division.
Damn.
Wait. I didn't think about the Vikings. Because if the Vikings win, they're also 13-4. 4-way tie. Holy shit.
I'm rooting for that, even though I picked the 49ers to wipe the floor with the Cardinals, as well as the Giants losing to the Eagles. But I want chaos.
It's not possible for it's possible for there to be a tie on record, but the Vikings are 7-4 in the conference. So if any of the other 3 teams win this game, they're automatically ahead of the Vikings.
Yeah.
So it's not possible for there to actually be that tie. So the Vikings could get pushed down in the seeding,
which I'm more than okay with. They haven't impressed me as much as I
even
was
winning
hoping they
for
would.
them doesn't do a lot unless, I mean, if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys lose and the Vikings win, they'd be tied on conference record. And then who knows what happens. Anyways, Dallas is favored by 7.5 on the road at Washington. And did you see this last week that Ron Rivera didn't realize that they could be eliminated?
No.
Week?
Holy shit.
So they one of the hold on, let me look at the double check and see, because I think that the Redskins have been eliminated. Yeah, they've been eliminated. So they played their early game and it was dependent on the afternoon results. They lost their game to the Browns, and a reporter asked him post game. He said, "So, given if whatever happens in the afternoon and you guys are eliminated, then is Sam Howell gonna get a look?" And he was just like eliminated. Like, what do you mean? Like. He didn't realize that it was conceivable that they could be eliminated last week, and they were eliminated last week. And he benched his previous starting quarterback and started Carson Wentz, who predictably shat all over himself.
Yeah. Wentz should be just relegated to 3rd string on whatever team he's on. He's been hot dog shit. The Eagles only made it to the Super Bowl because he got injured. I'll stand by that. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win only because they're the better team and they have something to play for. But I'm rooting for the most chaotic finish possible. If it's a cap at 3 teams that can tie for the top spot, I need that. The drama I want when it comes to NFL is, what do you do when teams are winning too much? Not how much can I cry about some shit that happened on Monday Night Football. So give me that. I'm ready for the narrative to move back to football-oriented storylines and less of this other shit. This is all entertainment. It's a distraction from real life. I'm ready for that to be the main fucking storyline with the NFL. Not to mention, I have a national championship to worry about next Monday, and so I kind of need the NFL to get a little more interesting, because right now it's kind of gay. By the way,
how are you feeling about that national championship game?
So TCU terrifies me because I've picked against them probably 8 times this year, and they've won every single time. I've taken them lightly every chance that they've ever taken the field, and they've only made me look foolish. But now it's personal. Now you're coming up against my fucking team. I can't be wrong every time I pick against you. And this is the time I get it right. The Dogs had so many mistakes in the Peach Bowl against an Ohio State team that played out of their fucking minds. They played their best game I've seen them play in the last 5 years. Easily. They actually lived up to the standards in which people thought they were always going to be there, always be at. And they finally showed what happens when all their horses are let out of the stable and they're all fucking running. And it was terrifying. I thought we were done 5 different times in that game. We were down by 14 2 different times. We came back to win it. in spite of us playing one of our worst games of the season, both schematically and just flat out position players being out of, our secondary being out of position. We didn't run our typical offensive scheme. We had injuries all over the fucking place. We were missing field goals. I know Ohio State wants to talk about injuries and miss field goals, but yeah. You lost. Get the fuck out of here. We'll see you next year. That showed me the character of a championship level team, to be able to still win when you had all of that dumb shit happen throughout the game. I think because of that, there's plenty to be coached up on, and you don't want a pissed off defending champion Georgia Bulldog team that has 50 to 64 and 5-star players going up against a TCU that might have a handful. I think this is perfectly slated for Georgia to come out, get their second natty in a row, be the only team in the college football playoff era to do it, and the first team since the 2012 Crimson Tide, which Kirby Smart was on the staff of. This only happens once a decade, going back to the 90s, where you have a back-to-back national championship winning college team. Georgia is the 2020s version of that, and that shit fucking happens Monday. We win by fucking double digits. Mark it.
All right. Well, that got us. We're still under 2 hours. You guys all talking shit about us going to go for 3 hours.
Well, they're just going to. I mean, yeah. Well, if Matt didn't have family, I could talk for another 2.
Yes,
but...
I could too.
No,
but
Matt,
I have family calling.
And I greatly respect that and appreciate your time. Hope everyone enjoyed whatever the fuck this was that just went down. Hopefully we'll have a full cast of characters for, I guess we're going to do this throughout the playoffs. I hope
so too. I think we should. I don't know for sure if I'll be available for him. It'll depend on work schedule, which I don't know yet, but yeah, I'm down.
Hell yeah. Well, everybody enjoy whatever the hell you do when in between our shows. I guess you can watch some football in the meantime. But I guess, Justin, pop this biatch off whenever you feel like it. See ya. He's just going to leave us here hanging.
He's just going to leave it here, isn't he?
I would.